No, of course not. And Leader McCarthy said we're going to do that on our own. Republicans, we have two bipartisan support signed off, two committees in the United States Senate signed off by both Republicans and Democrats, Republican staff, Democrat staff. So of course we want to get to the answers. But there's a fundamental question that Chairman Thompson refuses to answer. And that's why I think I was not allowed to participate and Mr. Banks was not allowed to participate. That fundamental question is, why wasn't there a proper security posture that day? And only the Speaker's office can answer that question. Only the Speaker's office. My hunch is the reason there wasn't a proper security posture is because what did Democrats do all last year? They normalized anarchy. They criticized the police. They, in fact, defunded the police. They raised bail money for the rioters and looters who attacked police and destroyed small business. So with that backdrop and that background, it's kind of tough then to have National Guard and more police presence here on January 6th like they knew they should have. Well, so that's the question that needs to be answered, or needs to be asked and answered. I don't know if it will be.
Well, Congressman, of course, Speaker Pelosi said she had other issues with you being on the committee, not just a matter of security and what they look into. She took issue with some of the stances you have taken in her words and her statement, saying that you supported a lot of ways the big lie that the election was stolen. So those were some of the issues she did take with you. But do you oppose, and some Democrats suggest you oppose it because you think it might make President Trump and Republicans look bad?
No, I oppose it because it's I mean, look, you got the two impeachment managers that you put on the committee, Adam Schiff and Jamie Raskin. You got Benny Thompson, chairman of the committee, who objected to the electors when George Bush. I guess the rule is only Democrats are allowed to object to accepting the electors on January 6th when we count the electors. Because Jamie Raskin objected on January 6, 2017 to the electors from Florida. Benny Thompson objected to the electors from when George Bush won the office. So maybe they're the only ones who are allowed to. I can't object when there's unconstitutional changes made to the election law in Pennsylvania, Arizona, and others. I'm not allowed to object to that, but they can object. You had Maxine Waters, TJ. She objected to the state of Wyoming. I mean, President Trump won Wyoming by like 40 points, but on January 6, 2017, she objected to Wyoming. And I don't remember the representative from Wyoming raising concerns about that. So I mean, look, that makes no sense when based on the people that the Democrats that Speaker Pelosi selected for the committee.
Congressman, Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney, who is on the committee, that Speaker Pelosi did okay to be on and wanted on and selected to be on, she suggested that you could be called as a material witness. Would you accept, or do you welcome the opportunity to testify in front of this committee?
The people who should be called as witnesses are the ones who can answer the fundamental question. Why wasn't there a proper security presence and posture that day? Those are the people who need to be called. And it is obvious, based on the comments from the chairman of this committee, Chairman Thompson, that he doesn't want to do that. So the two questions need to be answered is, why wasn't there a proper security presence that day? And what are we doing to make sure this doesn't happen again? Those are the witnesses that should be called.
So no,
we'll see how this all plays out with this. Well, look, I didn't do anything. I have nothing to hide. I'll be happy to talk to whoever wants to talk. But what I'm saying is the witnesses who should be called are the people who can answer those two fundamental questions. And everyone understands that.
Well, I know a lot of people do want to look into the security. Absolutely. I don't think anybody objects to that being the case. But Congresswoman Cheney suggested that there were talks and conversations that you were a part of leading up to January 6th and planning, if you will, for that day. Were you a part of any conversations or planning, not planning violence? I'm not suggesting that, but were you a part of any of those conversations leading up to?
I have had countless number of conversations with President Trump. I mean, look, for over 4 years, I mean, countless number. I never talked to the media about those conversations because, frankly, those are conversations with the President of the United States. But none of those conversations dealt with anything about that would be in any way wrong. But that's not the fundamental question. The fundamental question is, who can help us answer why there wasn't security presence here that day to protect these great Capitol Hill police who put their lives on the line for us? Why didn't they have the help they deserved, the help they needed, the help that was asked for? I mean, there's news reports out that said the Speaker's office was concerned about the optics of having the National Guard here. And the reason they're concerned about the optics is because for a year, They bashed the police. They raised bail money for people who attacked the police. And so when it came time to have a more robust police presence, they couldn't do it in light of what they said all last year.
And Congressman, I know you're focused, you're laser focused on security of that day. And that is a part of the conversation and the investigation. That should be a part of it. But you're not opposed to what happened before, during, after, the entire lead up. You're not opposed to that investigation as well, in addition to the security.
Well, I mean, President Trump said peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. We heard his whole speech. We watched the whole rally
He
on
also
video.
said
We've
fight
seen
like
all
hell,
kinds of
though,
video about
Congressman.
that day. But that seems to be what all the Democrats care about, which frankly is all they've cared about for the last 5 years, is going after President Trump. I mean, they had the Mueller investigation, they had impeachment round 1, impeachment round 2, and now here we go, impeachment round 3. The American people see this for what it is, the avoidance of the fundamental question by the Democrats and an effort to go after President Trump one more time.
Is it possible, Congressman, that he is responsible, like some Republicans have actually said?
Of course he's not.
He's not responsible. I mean, even
of course he's not.
Practically and morally, I think is what
TJ,
McConnell said.
You know who's DJ, you know who's responsible for the things that happened? The people who did wrong, and they should be prosecuted. And guess what? That is what is happening. The idea that the president's responsible is ridiculous. The people who are responsible are the people who did the wrong actions, and they should be held accountable, and they are, in fact, being held accountable.
One last thing here. This new book, I'm sure you're hearing about it. It's called I Alone Can Fix It by a couple of reporters from the Washington Post. They recall a story in there in which Liz Cheney, Congresswoman Liz Cheney, said on the day of the insurrection, you tried to help her and reached out to try to help her out of an aisle. And I'm reading the excerpt here. It says, I smacked his hand away and told him, get away from me. You blanking did this. Is that how you recall that happening?
No.
No. Okay.
No. I was trying to be helpful. That is not how I recall. There was no smacking and there was no swearing. But you know how stories go. They get different over time. So, but that is not exactly what happened.
But do you recall her saying you did this?
Yeah, she said something to me that day. I was concerned about making sure we got people off the floor because, you know, we didn't know what was coming through the back door.